Today I want to have another little conversation about the Sun-Saturn Synastry um, aspect, and specifically connecting it to something very personal to me, a personal relationship that I have in my life. So that is what is going on. So I had another video where I spoke a little bit about this relationship, and I spoke about the Sun-Saturn aspect in Synastry and my thoughts on it and what I know about it. Now, I'm here to claim that I'm not an expert on Synastry and astrology, so you can find many astrologers who have more information on that and a lot of wisdom and insight and knowledge on Synastry, and specifically the Sun-Saturn aspect in Synastry, and I don't pretend to be an expert on it. I'm offering up what I know, and I hope that in my videos I'm not giving away every little piece of what I know, and I hope that it's not coming across as if I'm just spouting out the astrological information that I know, because I think it's really important to provide insights and examples and to just say what you want to from your heart. And so my Mercury, which is my planet of communication and how I think is in a practical, steady, fixed earth sign of Taurus, so I can do very well at getting down to the point. That means that, where I can present the information in a really methodical, matter-of-fact, practical way. That's probably just how I communicate. So, where I think I'm talking fast, I think I'm talking at a certain speed. When I'm talking quickly, it's really nothing. Sometimes I think I'm speaking faster than I actually am speaking. But anyway, so the Sun-Saturn relationship. This video, this audio recording, is not going to be so much about that, but about this one relationship in my life and some of the things that have happened in the past that have led up to this Venus retrograde season, in this review, in this need for each person to be on their own island for a little bit of time and to ruminate and to reflect on the nature of the relationship. And I'm talking about this relationship. I do use the Sun conjunct Saturn as an example for one of the aspects in synastry of relationship from one person to the other. So I know somebody who has Saturn in Aries at 16 degrees, and my natal sun sign is at 16 degrees of Aries. And I'm sure that there are other aspects going on in synastry between us that make for more difficult, interactions and difficult conversations and, difficult times, and maybe some adjustments that need to be made, and maybe some compromises that need to be made on each person being themselves. And I think one of those other aspects could be the Sun semi-square Sun. This person is a Pisces Sun, whose Sun is, I'm sure, right around the same degree as my natal Sun. Now, am I going to tell you the birthday of the person? I'm not going to, um, because that may give away some information, which is probably not wise for me to do. It's, too, specific. Although I will say my birthday is April 6th, so if you think about the sun moving 1 degree around the zodiac each day per year, it spends 29 degrees in 12 zodiac signs. Aries season begins, or when the sun is in Aries, it's from March 21st through April 19th. So if you count, March 21st would be day 1. Right around March 31st, the sun would be at 10 degrees. And then April 16th, the sun would be at 16 to 17 degrees of the zodiac sign. And I was born on April 6th, very, very early in the morning. So my sun is still at, at 16 degrees, I would say. So, I am going to liberate myself in these videos to say, whatever I want to say. But I do know the feeling of guilt and discomfort, and there are healthy boundaries to what I do in these videos, and those boundaries come up naturally. And, anyway, I thought that I would just explain that real quick, but, I trust that when I liberate myself to say whatever I want to, then I will not say the wrong or unkind thing or not nice thing to say. So, I trust that. Um, so, when it comes to the sun semi-square, the sun, maybe there can be some difficulties with conflict. I mean, if you think about the two signs of Pisces and Aries, I am not talking just about my sun being at 16 degrees of Aries and this person's Saturn being at 16 degrees of Aries. I'm talking basic, level understanding of astrology. My sun is in Aries, this person's sun is in Pisces. Aries and Pisces, they come right next to each other. Pisces is a sign which deals with empathy and compassion. It corresponds to oneness, adaptability, going with the flow. And this is where it really, really hits home for me. What resonates within the context of this relationship is the part of Pisces that is very, very sensitive. Pisces is one of the most sensitive signs out of the whole zodiac. Because you're sort of a sponge. Pisces can be a sponge, just absorbing the emotions and the energy and the vibrations of anyone and everyone, around it. And so, it can be very sensitive. And maybe one of the shadow sides is manipulating other people for being a victim and for getting hurt and offended and for being the damsel in distress, so that you can get a greater sense of power. And didn't we just come off of a whole South Node and Scorpio transit where emotional manipulation of other people is not the way to go? We've learned that. And we're still learning about unhealthy relationship and dependency of where we source our power in other people. That is also a long-running theme with the South Node currently moving through Libra and the North Node currently moving through Aries. And I do think that a really, and I have a whole video about this, and actually, I am going to recommend to you a fabulous, amazing, very insightful video from a channel called Owning Authenticity. You can find it on the homepage of my YouTube channel. and I shared one of my videos in one of my posts on the community tab of my YouTube channel, and on Facebook and on my Instagram. And I really like her, Carly Wharton is the person. She is really, a lot of her content now is about this transit of the North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra as being a transit where there are so many different pieces and there's so many, complexities and, things to delve into. And of course, as a Gemini sun, there's lots to talk about and so many, different ideas. So she really puts a lot into those videos, and she uses a lot of examples and metaphors and analogies. Very relatable, very personal, tells a lot of anecdotes, and really somebody whom I wish more astrologers were more like. Very from the heart, very authentic, hence the name of her channel. And very, knowing what she is talking about. And I think that it is very refreshing, given the fact that I have seen several astrologers be very left brain and present the information because, oh, I know this information, I'm giving all the facts. But the fact is that the astrological information that you are giving has limitations. And I feel like maybe they dig themselves into a rut, and I hope that they don't these astrologers do not rest on the laurels, that they continue to study and read up more on their astrology, and I trust that they do. But the point is, there's several astrology videos where I just try to suck out how this resonates with me, how this information is meaningful and valuable, and personal to me. And it just feels like, well, if I don't actually act on the information that you're giving me, it's not going to mean anything. And that's where I feel like, gosh, how come I'm not feeling nourished and interested in what I am watching? That this is just gonna go in from one ear out the other and it's not going to matter to me, or um, it's just a bunch of information that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It's almost meaningful, meaningless information. For me personally, when astrologers do the monthly horoscopes, they say this full moon's happening in your 6th house, this Venus is moving into your 9th house. I've never resonated with that system. It doesn't really mean a whole lot for me. And so I don't find myself feeling that lack of nourishment and that, sort of um, those kind of feelings when I, see her videos. So all of that is to say, I would definitely recommend checking out her video on the South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries transit. And one of the things that I want to speak to about that is because, and the other thing I'll say about, Carly is, her videos really, inspire me to come on here and to speak about what I want to share and what matters to me. And yeah, so very, very inspirational. And also, very liberating and empowering. I'm going to say, that's how I would describe, her and her videos. So anyway, um, so many positive things. So definitely somebody that at this point in my life and in my astrological understanding, I vibe with, I resonate with, not somebody that I watch and go, you're basically telling me all the same things that I know already. Because at this point, I am very, very knowledgeable about astrology, and I'm seeing astrologers talk about the same exact information that I have said, and it's like very, kind of annoying when they say the same, things, and it's like you're almost boxing yourself in. Can you liberate yourself just a bit more and find different things to talk about? Um, and so, yeah, it's not so much about the left brain information of astrology, but it is about the heart and the insights and the meaning that you put into it. And that is something that I really strongly believe. And that heart and meaning is what Carly, you know, shares and presents in her video. So anyway, but one of the things of the Libra South Node and North Node in Aries that she was talking about is, well, where we're not yet experienced in the North Node Aries energy is actually trying to find a way to be more powerful and courageous in control, that we are actually projecting and imposing our opinions and what we want and our goals onto another person instead of turning it within inside of us and just being our true selves. So that's something that she was, discussing. And so, that's one of the, important elements of the, this particular transit is really, what's fair for you may not be fair for somebody else. What's right for you may not be right for somebody else. And you really have no right to dictate somebody else's life and the choices that they make, and controlling them in their authentic self, which to me relates to the Sun Saturn synastry in relationship, of where the Saturn can give direction, and it can be very authoritative. It can be very domineering and almost kind of, bossy boots, where you need to live up to these expectations. I'm, telling you how to live your life. Although some Saturn conjunct Sun relationships can be more beneficial, where the Saturn actually provides empowering you and pushing you to be the best version of yourself, to live to your highest potential, to provide structure, and to have discipline to work hard and persist to achieve those long-term results, and to step into the highest, more evolved frequency of your sun sign, which to me is, Mel Robbins, if you've ever know her work. Her work is about not procrastinating, it's about taking action to what you want. She is somebody who has some Aries energy in her chart, and definitely moving into that direction, and definitely empowering people to embrace their inner fire in very practical, real life kind of ways. And Saturn deals with, well, this is real life. And so I think that if we would be in relationship, it would be one where she would really motivate me to be the best that I can be. That's the feeling that I get for that relationship, and it would be very positive, where I would be having sort of a cheerleader or someone who really believes in me. And the other thing that I want to say is, before I get to the point, that Neptune, the planet of compassion and empathy and oneness, is going to be moving into Aries. And so I think that Mel Robbins is somebody who embodies the Neptune in Aries. Well, I I have compassion and I care about you and I believe in you and I believe that you can do this, be self-sufficient, achieve this, and you have the power to go after this goal, etc. So, in her natal chart, Mel has um, Moon in Aries, Saturn in Aries, the North Node in Aries. So, yes, that is just what I want to say. So it all depends on just, who you are, and there's several similarities astrologically that we share with one another in our natal birth charts. But anyway, um, so, um, when it comes to discussing, um, the particular relationship that I have in my life, the North Node's in Aries, the South Node is in Libra, but it's almost as if you could swap the nodes around the exact other way. Now, as I was saying, so it's as if right now the current nodal transit with the South Node in Libra and the North Node in Aries is actually, the question is it the right answer for this relationship in my life? Because what if this whole transit makes for not the most favorable time to really connect with this person? And maybe one of the reasons is because this person has Saturn in Aries conjunct the Sun, or it can be favorable, where, as I said, the positive side about the Sun conjunct Saturn in Synastry, one person's Sun is at the same degree in sign as another person's Saturn. Maybe the Saturn person can have the Sun person, again, be the best version of themselves that they can be. Or it can be the flip side, where the Saturn person puts a block and puts a challenge on you, where it's like a patronizing affair. It's like a father figure who has more power, who tells you that, who gives you the message in one way or another that you are not worthy enough, that you are not mature enough. And this is what I really, really want to make clear, is that time and again, I have been in a situation with this particular person where, number one, I feel unsure of what to say in case it's going to upset the other person, in case it's going to rock the boat and make for more disharmony, in case what I say is arrogant or selfish, and you can air quote that. And the other thing is, feeling in the wrong, feeling like I am wrong. If I didn't say that before. So that's sort of how it can present itself. So, it's sort of the Saturn person on the downside can put a restriction on your creative self-expression, on, the sun, you shining your light, expressing how you are in your full authenticity. That's what it can show up as. So, how it can manifest, or how it manifested for me, was that, it's one of those kind of relationships where it's like all I said was the truth. I was just being honest. I was just expressing myself. Well, that hurt me. You should think about other people's feelings. I mean, it's that kind of thing where I didn't mean any harm in the things that I said, but they got interpreted in a wrong and negative, hurtful way. And it's the same for the other person. The other person says something, and I interpret it the wrong way, or I hear it, and then it irritates me. It annoys me. It triggers some fuel, some rage, some fire in me that I don't like, and I don't appreciate what you just said. And this is what I have to say about it. I should not be restrained and inhibited from speaking my truth. I shouldn't feel inhibited from expressing myself and how I feel. And each person's feelings should be validated. Not only each other's feelings, but your own feelings. It's not about denying or disowning your own feelings just for the sake of compromise and people pleasing and harmony with the other person. If both people are not being their authentic selves and coming from a place of personal truth in order to create harmony, then that's not a situation where you have a win-win. That's actually something that Carly was talking about. But it sort of came about to me. And so, You can see, the 7+ hour deep dive video that she did, where she combined several of her videos from the North Node and Aries, South Node and Libra transit series. I think it's really interesting that other astrologers did not give as much deep insight and information as she did. And I find that really interesting. And so, yeah. So, for me, one of the themes of the dynamics of this relationship is where it can get heavy. Now, right now, I'm thinking to myself, it's like, relax. Right here's what I'm doing right now in my head. I have to bring this up. I am trying to affirm to myself over and over again, I can say whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. And I'm judging myself and I'm pushing myself, or, oh, you're not liberating yourself enough. Oh, why are you holding back? Whatever it is, it's just thoughts. Whatever mindset I have, whatever I say, I'm just going to let it be what it is without attachment to it being a certain way, without attachment to me being liberated. Just let go. I'm just going to say that to myself. Let go and whatever thought in my mind run through my mind when I'm doing this. Let go. Surrender. Relax. Now, hard lessons. Things that you do not want to hear. Going back to patronization. Going back to being in a relationship, which this is kind of a relationship. I don't want to be vague. I don't want to be vague. I want to be direct. That it can get to the place where there can be a patronizing, traditional, respect your elders kind of dynamic. We don't live back in the 1900s or the 20th century. We live in the 21st century, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with my generation. If anyone wants to project and impose, it's different than just having a conversation with me and sharing and letting me into your life. But if you are projecting and imposing your own experience onto me that is not my experience, no, I don't buy that. I also don't buy people negating the very real feelings that I have. I mean, when people say, oh, if this is what you're, if this is the biggest concern in your life, then, fill in the blank. And what it can be like is I am sitting at a table having a meal with this person, and I am feeling angry, and I am feeling frustrated. And inside me, my inner fire is going. But then I can feel inhibited to let it out, to be true to myself, to be assertive and not be passive aggressive and fall into that very negative Libra South Node shadow of personal disempowerment. I really don't want to have an experience where I'm sitting at a table and I feel like I cannot speak my truth and speak what is on my mind. And I don't want an experience where the other person is not validating my feelings, and this person is judging me for what I'm feeling, gaslighting me into thinking that my beliefs, my judgment, my truth, what I have to say, what I'm thinking is wrong. I know it's right. I know it's right. It feels right within me. And this is my truth. There have been many roads of belief in society that have told people what is selfish and what is negative. My sun's sign, as much as it gets a really positive rap and as much as we are meant to tap into the highest vibrations of Aries during these next 18 months when the North Node is transiting through Aries and Jupiter just moved through Aries and Neptune's going to move into Aries in 2025. Venus in 2025 is probably going to do a retrograde in Aries, and Saturn is moving into Aries, and Uranus was already in Aries from 2010 to 2018. As much as that sign, because this is when the Sun conjunct Saturn aspect, this is a sign that is happening in, where this particular person is trying to put a boundary on the Aries sign, and it feels to me like this person, I wish that this person saw more of the high road and more of the upsides and the higher vibration sides of Aries. And going back to talking about, Mel Robbins, it would be different because her Saturn is a little bit, degrees away from my sun sign. But that kind of, relationship would be, I am here to provide a structure for you, and I understand. And I want you to embrace the higher vibrations of Aries, whereas I want you to just get away from Aries, because Aries, those shadow sides, and only getting caught up and wrapped in the shadow sides. And it feels that it's not written or spoken, but it's binary. When over the years I've been in, a relationship with this person, Aries is all bad and shadow, and Libra is all good. That I am wrong for being in Aries. And being in Aries has limitations. And it feels like the first or second thing people think about when it comes to Aries energy is you could go through the list, just like with Mercury retrograde. And you're so caught up in the negative qualities of Mercury retrograde, instead of seeing the higher, more evolved, more nuanced way of looking at it. That Mercury retrograde is a time for deep reflection and getting into your unconscious and really unearthing new information. Review, revision, downloading, informational processing. I mean, all these kind of things. With Aries energy, the high road is self-empowerment. The high road is decisiveness. I know who I am. Know thyself. And maybe the shadow sides of Aries can manifest if the Aries does not love and does not find security within itself. That it's trying to prove something and trying to control other people, bulldozing other people, because it does not feel worthy of being its authentic self. So maybe that's where some of the shadow sides can manifest, the pushiness, all those kind of things. But you really need to look at it from a nuanced, compassionate, really tender, deep perspective of really understanding the different sides of this particular sign and how those shadow qualities can manifest. We are living in a world of more nuance than there was earlier in history, in human culture, basically. And so, with just, maybe there's not an appreciation for the higher qualities of Aries. Or maybe there's not enough understanding or love, or maybe the qualities of Aries are not embraced and accepted into this person's consciousness. Who knows? I don't want to make assumptions because I don't know, certain things about this person, so I don't want to assume anything. One thing I did say on, the last video about the Sun conjunct Saturn and Saturn in Aries is self-love and accepting yourself as you are. That's huge. Accepting that you have an ego, you have needs, wants, and really the motivation and courage and the belief and confidence within yourself that yes, you can go after what you need and want. Even if you may feel the fear of rejection because at an early age you were probably told or given the message that you could not have what you want no matter how hard you tried and worked for it. Saturn is an energy that's related to Chiron, as when you face these challenges, you heal these wounds that have probably been placed on you when you were a child, these obstacles, these blockages that have been put on you. And maybe you've been conditioned into a certain way of being when you were younger. And throughout life, you will shake it off a little bit year by year. You will rise above that. Challenges and tests are put in place for you to reach toward your spiritual potential, for you to rise above that challenge, to transcend, to be all that you can be, because you may be in a difficult environment, or you may have been placed in a difficult environment growing up. Maybe you had parents that weren't as loving or nurturing, or didn't offer you as much slack, or um, presented you with some restrictions, or whatever terrain it was for you and it is for you in your life. Saturn's very, very interesting, and it is a fascinating signature in astrology to study. And I really want to learn more about Saturn and Aries placement, because there's so many layers to dig into with this particular placement. And it can be at the high road. The good news is that the Saturn conjunct the Sun person will mature the Aries Sun person, or mature the Sun person. And the bad news is that the Saturn person will mature the Sun person. Maybe you can see where I'm going with this, where the Saturn person can mold and control and direct the Sun person. This is how you need to live your life. I'm not okay with how you express yourself, so I'm just going to try to control you and ground you into the person that I think that you should be. That you're too, egoic, where maybe, it is important to see the light in the dark. Maybe the Saturn person is so caught up in the shadow sides of Aries, or not a fan of how the Sun person expresses itself. It is about realizing and coming to an understanding of the positive vibrations of Aries, that way you can heal the shadows as someone's expressing the shadow ends, and having a compassion for the Sun person's self expression, and how that Sun person needs to express itself and shine, and use its power, and put itself out there in this lifetime. And then that Saturn person can help the Sun person, and better and teach and mentor the Sun person, as opposed to disempower, as opposed to dictate and restrict or put a boundary on. So, I don't really want to be in a situation where just me being me, just speaking truth about what is the actual situation and what I feel and what I want to have happen, is wrong. It's not necessarily complaining, but it is not just speaking truth. I just don't say things just to say things. I'm obviously speaking out about something because I want you to realize this, and I want something to change, and I want something to be acted upon, and something to occur because of something to be different because of what I'm saying. And I am continuing to talk about this because I can't get it off my mind, and the issue is not resolved yet. And what can happen is, in this kind of relationship, at this point, I know who I am, and this person sometimes makes me feel, makes me look in a way that I don't want to, makes me out to be someone that I'm not, someone that I don't want to, makes me out to be an immature and selfish and judgmental and inconsiderate person, which I'm not, makes me out to be the one in the wrong, makes me the one at fault, makes me the one, this person I feel makes me the one who has to learn the hard lessons and has the problem and has a problem instead of, both and. And so that's how it can feel. And that's what I can say now with the realization and with the fog of when I was growing up. I did act out, and there were times when I did misbehave, when I, didn't, you, you know, when I threw, temper tantrums. And so to me, it seems obvious that I was, growing up, and I was expressing just shadow sides of just what children can express when they are growing up. I don't like labels when people say, oh, you have OCD, or oh, you're on the autism spectrum, and you're acting this way because you're on the autism spectrum. It seemed, I just don't see what I saw then. I just didn't see what I see now because I was growing up and I was not as mature as I am now, and that has been a natural process throughout my life and just growing. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm just going to be. I'm not going to try to be for anybody if I'm not feeling it. If I don't want to express that, or if I'm not in that mood, or if I'm not going to try to be anything just because you want me to be that. I'm going to be whatever I am right now, and I'm going to feel whatever it is that I feel. And don't say that my feelings don't matter, and don't say that my feelings are important, and don't carry that belief around. And I think what can happen is the South Node in Aries, North Node in Libra, I think is a good astrological metaphor for the direction that I think that this relationship should go in. I mean, both in Aries and Libra. But with the South Node and the North Node, it's not, well, I'm just ignoring the North Node and then just throwing the South Node in to include it with the North Node. It really is about, these are these higher vibration qualities of the South Node. I'm going to try to reach the North Node when I'm fulfilling the South Node qualities. It's sort of veering away and catching yourself and reframing yourself from the shadow qualities of the South Node sign and embracing the higher vibration qualities of the South Node to then balance it out and integrate it with the North Node. And so you take the authenticity of Aries, the fire and the self-confidence of Aries, and then you have that dynamic in relationships. It's not that, oh, if everyone was authentic, then we would not get along, because that's a very limited and that's a very sort of, dated and narrow way of looking at it. Actually, it is the opposite, where if both people can be their authentic selves, and there can actually be way more peace and harmony, and there can be more win-win situations where there is true love and true compassion. And genuine connection between two people, without one person trying to limit themselves in case something that they say or do upsets another, without the people-pleasing dynamic going on in their relationship. And so with, the North Node in Libra, the North Node is not in Libra. And being in a kind of situation that drains me, and where I fall into passive aggression, where I'm gaslit into my truth, and what I have to say doesn't matter, and I feel low self-esteem and low self-worth because of that situation, and then I say something that is not respecting myself, and it is lying to myself, and throwing myself under the bus, and shooting myself under the foot, because I allow the other person to win. I give the other person the power instead of fighting back, instead of asserting my own feelings and my own needs. I say, I'm wrong and I'm the one at fault, because I feel drained and pulled down by another person. And then I say something which totally diminishes and squishes down my light and my power. And I feel like the kid who's not mature, who needs to be mature and learn the tough lessons. This relationship that I have with this person is the only relationship where I feel, or I get the feeling in the projection, that I am not mature, and I am all of these things, which I'm not. I'm, self-centered, apparently. All those kind of things like that. And that is not who I am. And I do not appreciate people making me look that way. I don't appreciate being around somebody who brings out those, those feelings within me and those negative qualities. And I don't appreciate feeling like I am rocking the boat by just opening my mouth and speaking my personal truth at a table, eating a meal outside. I wish I could enjoy the meal, but guess what? There is this other issue, and I'm not going to deny that this is an issue. Let's talk about this and get this addressed, not brushing it under the rug because we don't want conflict. Not brushing it under the rug and denying it and pretending that doesn't matter. The issue doesn't matter. Peace cannot be achieved by brushing issues under the rug, but by resolving them, and by coming together and having an honest conversation. And then you can have the peace and harmony. Peace and harmony without the resolution is not peace and harmony. Both, people keeping the peace, but inside, do they feel peaceful, or are they trying to put that image of peace externally and trying to mask their own feelings and their own fire? Because you're trying to have a civil conversation. You're trying to, get along with other people. You're trying to have everyone enjoy their, experience. You're trying to just, you know, get along as best you can, where, you know, you can hear a pin drop in the silence of that. Of people suppressing their anger, of people holding in their anger because they're afraid of what the other person's going to say, of this relationship where one person is holding in his or her anger because they are afraid of what the other person is going to say. And then if I feel like I am hurting somebody by just opening my mouth and speaking my truth, that is not a situation that I deserve to be in. That is not a situation for me. That is not for me. And I do not appreciate being in a relationship where I feel like I'm invalidated, not worthy, disrespected, like I'm don't matter as much as I do, that my truth doesn't matter, you know, all those kind of things. And we are reviewing this during Venus retrograde season. We are reviewing matters of the heart and where we did not feel worthy, where people are sort of limiting our self-expression, where we don't feel like we can shine. And I'm going to be honest, like when people say, oh, how you're doing, oh, I'm good, that's a very Libra South Node tendency. Shadow side is when people say, oh, I'm good. The downside of reciprocity is fakery. That's the shadow side. Well, how are you doing? Oh, guess what? This is what happened to me today. And I'm going to be honest about that. And I'm going to come from my heart. And I'm going to be truthful. And I'm going to be genuine. And here it is. I don't care, you know, what you think. You may like it or you may not. But this is the honest truth. And that this, again, comes from my heart. So I'm not going to say that there has not been some Venus retrograde stuff happening in my life, and I'm going to lay it out, and I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm not going to have these dynamics in my life be an exception to me coming on here and sharing what I want to share with you. And so, you know, that's sort of the, you know, the conclusions that I have reached at this point. Is there's just a wrinkle and a sort of snafu or a kerfuffle or some little argument or some fight or some disagreement or something that happens which makes me feel that I am not worthy as much as I should be, and makes me feel like I am not mature enough, makes me feel like it puts down my power, makes me feel that whatever I knew, my truth is apparently wrong, and somebody else has more maturity than I do, and I am made to be, again, someone who's apparently, you know, self-centered, not necessarily impulsive, but argumentative. I think that when elders and authority figures say, you know, talk about maturity and all those kind of, things like that. Know when it is projection. And I'm sure that we have had many experiences of projection from our parents to grandparents, etc. And all those kind of things like that. Don't laugh at somebody for their troubles and their problems. It says, oh, it's ridiculous and it doesn't matter. It makes them look silly. And you know what? There is such peace and tranquility when you step back and realize this is not me. This is this other person who has his or her own side of the street to clean up. It's on them. They are making me feel this way, but you know what? I don't have to succumb to that. I am the captain of my own ship. If I'm walking around and I'm hot and uncomfortable, or if I don't like a certain smell in the house or whatever, or if there's, issues that come up, they are legitimate and they matter to me. And if someone laughs at me bringing up those issues, that is not okay with me, and that is not that is disrespectful to me, because it is another message saying to me that your feelings are not necessarily wrong, but you are immature. I just want to come back to that. Immature. That just a simple laughing at somebody for their problems, just chuckling when they're running around, when they're frustrated, when they are upset, that fuels the fire, and you do not want to feel that fire. That person is not in the mindset to have a laugh or be laughed at. And the only reason why they are laughing is because it is out of reluctance. It is, they're reluctantly doing it. Because this person's laughing, someone's laughing, you laugh along with them, but really they're negating and they are ignoring and making light of somebody else's things going on in an issue, in a situation that they are facing. It's tricky because when you have a relationship where someone intends something and the other interprets it in a very wrong and very negative way, then there can be some problems. And I do just want to throw that out there, of the oil and water type dynamic there, where, you're just sort of waiting for the next little prick and the next little argument to happen. And it is almost as if, well, you need to be mindful of what you're saying. And it isn't making authenticity a bad thing. It's when people make expressing your authenticity a bad thing. Like, oh, well, here you go. I'm giving you a taste of your own medicine. I express my authenticity. You are just abusing authenticity at that point. Well, I don't know. It just feels a little, I don't know. I'm sort of getting off. And okay, I'm not really focusing. Forget about, all these little empty threads that I'm leaving you with. Anyway, point is that I don't know with the North Node in Aries and what it's going to be. And I don't know what I'm going to be seeing, maybe a little bit. Before I'm going to see this person again, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I do want to stop. This is kind of a personal and heavy subject matter for me to discuss. So that's all that I want to say for now. And bye, everybody.